Welcome to the Aligned and Amplified podcast, where we sit down with entrepreneurs, consultants, coaches, and business leaders to explore what's actually working in business today. Each episode pulls back the curtain on the strategies, lessons, challenges, and breakthroughs that shape successful businesses, helping you gain insights you can apply to your own journey. I'm your host, Jaime Ellithorpe, founder of 540 Strategies. Today, I'm joined by Suzette Cotto, and I'm excited to dive into her story, what she's building, and the lessons she's learned along the way. Welcome to the show, Suzette. We're glad to have you here.
Thanks, Jamie. I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, let's kick this off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, and who you help.
Okay. Well, myself as I'm a woman of a certain age, the midlife woman who is working hard at building a business, but I started out in 1998. I was working in internet infrastructure. So I was a network engineer for a company that built the internet. So I got hardware and software training early in the beginning of technology. That helped me move on to several leadership positions where internet technology was really important. Um, and then in 2007, I decided to get off the road. I was a definite road warrior, working in corporate. I had a 9-year-old son who decided that he didn't like the situation. So he was going to go live with Nana. So that was a hard choice for me. I was a single parent at the time, and I just was like, wow, this is a challenge for me because I don't know anything else but corporate life. So I decided to start a consulting company and did some consulting, and then social media was just coming around pretty good in 2007, 2008. So I decided that I was going to focus on social media and internet technology in my company. So I started a company called Innovate Social Media. And basically was working with small businesses, entrepreneurs, wanting to get visibility online and helping them become known. And it was kind of the wild, wild west back in 2000, the early 2000s, and then into 2010, 11, 12. I continued to build. I was an area local expert for Constant Contact, which is now a marketing suite of software for small businesses. And I noticed something, and it was a statistic that really took me back, and it was 1 in 5 small businesses failed in their first year. So being in corporate and knowing that, I worked for a couple of companies that were in the dot-com bust and, how that happened and investment money, how that worked with um, funding a company's growth. And I was working with people who didn't have investment money. They had only what they could do. So I focused on small businesses. And as time went by, I got involved with a project, an Emmy nominated, winning film called Pioneers in Skirts. I'm an associate producer for the movie. And basically, it was a movie about ambition in women and how the world and society kind of chips away at us over time and, affects our ambition. So, working with that and all of the dynamics and the people involved with that kind of brought me to a place where I felt like I needed to narrow the focus. And so I decided that I wanted to help accomplished women who wanted to leave corporate jobs for entrepreneurship. That's it. I narrowed the field so that I could really be intentional and focused with those women. And these were the women that didn't grow up with the internet. So women who didn't have LinkedIn for looking at career options. They didn't have websites and all of those things that we have now to help us grow and achieve on the journey. So I started a company called Innovate Launch, which is a branch of my Innovate Social Media, and trademarked it. And I've been about a year now into the transition. So I'm pivoting, and I am one of the women that, kind of grew up in that era of we didn't have the internet. So I'm making this about online visibility for women. So we were kind of taught to be heads down. We didn't have seats at the board room table. A lot of times, we were just kind of not asked for our opinion. So we didn't have I don't want to say the confidence, because women do have confidence. What they didn't have was the knowledge that they really needed to be putting themselves out there online so that they had something that people could find when they were looking at them. Especially when you're building a new business, you want to have something that people can find online about you, and you want to make sure it's intentional and good. So, so it's about teaching women to do the things to become visible, and then from there taking that and using automation to scale. So it's a lot of technology as the vehicle, but on top of it is the experience and the lived experience of those women who are making those changes.
I
A
love it.
lot
I
of
love your
information
journey.
there.
No, but I love it. I love your journey. I can see a big piece of myself in that because I walked that road as well, leaving corporate and then getting in
Mhm.
entrepreneurship. So I love the fact that you're advocating, especially for women making that transition because it's a challenge. But
Yes.
within that, I'm curious to learn more. Can you tell us a milestone or two that you've experienced in your journey as you've evolved outside of corporate into where you are today? Something that you're really proud of.
Um, Something I'm really proud of is that I'm finally getting traction with these women. I've been, I made the pivot a year ago, and I'm putting out a lot of content around the issues that women face, and the challenges that women face, and um, my SSI index. I don't know if you know what that is on LinkedIn, but I have a 1%, top 1% SSI index on LinkedIn. That's where I have my biggest social following, and that's where I do most of my content posting. I have a newsletter there and stuff like that. But I think a big win for me is to see the graph go this way. With engagement and following, and relationship building, because that's what I'm about. Relationship building is like key for me. Um, my number one thing is like, if you want to make $1 million a month or something, I'm not your person. My focus is the quality of the journey, and seeing that I'm touching the right people, and those people are responding to the messaging, is really a big win for me. I feel like I'm really focused now on the mission.
I love the fact that you said it's a mission. And I know you've gone through a lot over the last 12 months, it sounds like, making so many changes. I want to ask you, what has surprised you the most about growing your business over the last 12 months?
I think that what surprised me the most is seeing the responses from these women. There's a woman, she was featured on Good Morning America not long ago. Her name is Stacy Dewick, and she uh, is a fashion writer in Great Britain, and she's been out of work over a year, 16 months or so. And she wrote a piece on, I think it was Instagram, about how she's been struggling. She's almost out of money. Um, you know, the no one's calling her. She's put out 500 resumes, and the conversation was, women are taking like 7 years off their resume so that they look more in tune with the age group that the algorithms are looking for. So I think that it surprised me that there were that many women who were not getting reemployed, and that really bothers me. It's one thing to achieve your goals and to do what you set out to do, but then when your situation changes, how do you get from here to here? If you want another job, how do you get that other job? And then you're finding all these obstacles are still there and still happening. And even worse, now that you're in your 50s or more, 40s and 50s, it's a conversation. And that's why I termed women of a certain age. I've been using that as a hashtag, because women are leaving corporate in droves. Over 45, almost 50% of new businesses are started by women over 40 or over 45. And that tells me something. Either they can't find a new job because, there's not opportunities, or they're not seeing the opportunities that they want, or the opportunities aren't picking them, or they're doing something else because they feel like the career that they've been in for so long really isn't the career that they wanted. It's really not the thing that lights them up every day and keeps them motivated and happy and, wanting to continue to work. I don't really want to out myself with my age, but I'm 63, and I've never said, my age is going to be something that gets considered in my work, and when somebody hires me. But it is something that's in the back of my mind. So ageism and still gender bias is still a thing for us. And I created a community as well called the VIP community for the Launch Innovate VIP community. And I did that because I wanted a place for women to be able to go where they had people that were in the same boat that they were and walking the same path. And, we just don't have that. So that was to me the most shocking thing, was finding that women are still facing the same obstacles, but maybe in different ways now that we're older.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And it sounds like you've got a lot of resources for your community and that you've put a lot of work and thought into how to support women transitioning for sure. It's definitely a challenge. So I'm curious to know what part of your business right now seems to require the most attention, energy, or focus right now for you?
The thing that I do the most of is produce my own content. I don't hand off content to my team, because it's really personal to me. So I write my own blogs, I do my own podcasts, and I come up with the topics. I really research and think about those things so that I'm staying relevant. But um, it's something that I find that I do the most of. And, I wish I could find someone that could, there's AI out there, and I'm telling you, I can sit for hours and hours in front of ChatGPT or Claude and write a blog, but it's more along the lines of, putting in what I consider my blog to be, and then having that dialogue back and forth about things, and then maybe that AI portion of the conversation goes out and finds statistics for me, or, but I don't depend on it, because it isn't my voice, and I want that authentically. I think that there's a lot of things you can do with AI, but that content creation, while AI has helped me, do it faster, it's still something that I'm deeply committed to. And I don't know if I'm ever going to give any part of that up. I don't think that there's people out there who are thought leaders or influencers. No one's going to be them. So I find that the content is most important and it is part of our visibility online. So I have to make sure that I'm talking about things that matter to my audience. And I just don't know I can hand that off to somebody. So
No,
it's content.
I love that authenticity and that you're really focused on
Yeah.
serving your audience and what their needs are right now. So speaking of right now, when you look into the future of where your business is today versus where you want it to be 3 to 5 years from now, what feels clear to you? What direction are you headed in?
The direction that I'm headed in is to continue to gain momentum and to continue to scale. So, scaling is difficult in a world that we live in because there are so many options, and you have to be able to know what options to choose that will really help you get momentum. The options that work for you may not be the same options that work for somebody else. So I think that it's important that we give ourselves that opportunity to grow, and that is a challenge, and it's something. So I think, given the opportunities that are out there, there's lots of people telling you how to do your marketing and how to make 7 figures in a year and all of that thing. Um, I've read books by influencers. I followed Alex Hermosi and Russell Brunson. These are marketing thought leaders. And I think that, they give you these volumes of books, right? Russell Brunson's books are at least a good 2 inches of reading. And while their information is really good, they don't give you the mechanics of it. So while the resources that are out there to do things, there's really not a single place that tells you really this is where you need to start. This is where you need to go from there. This is where you need to go to scale. This is where you need to go. You know what I mean? There's no one resource. And I'm trying to do that with the launch um, brand, and creating that place of, I don't want to call it a framework because it's really not that. It's really just a way for the women in the group to understand the things that they need to know to grow. Um, I have a client who is a growing small business, and she wanted to do marketing and scale and all of those things. And she didn't have her systems in place. She didn't have her CRM functioning properly. So it doesn't matter how much marketing you do, you have to have your foundational systems in place working, and everybody on board before you can scale. So that to me is one of the biggest things that small business owners deal with, is learning what systems they need in order to scale and grow. Nobody wants to just stay at a couple 100,000 a year and that's good for me. In order to scale past that, you have to take yourself out of the business and find ways to automate things, or to delegate things. And you're not going to do that without systems. So,
You've talked a lot about all the various options that are out there in the marketing world and trying to figure it out for every specific business. So I'm curious to learn more about where you're headed in your business. What do you think will be the most important in helping you bridge the gap between where you are today and where you want to take your company?
well, I think it's important for me to continue to have the visibility that I need. Doing a lot of this organically. I'm not doing it with lots of paid ads, because I think that people that opt for advertising early on in the game are not really going to get the right kind of feedback because your ads give you all kinds of metrics. And in order for you to to have that future growth, you need to have the right kind of visibility. So finding the right rooms, finding the right networking events. I have a podcast similar where I am, I'm not interviewing anyone yet, but I'm trying to say, hey, these are the things that you need to be thinking about right now if you're getting started. So I think in order for me to continue to grow, I need to have that visibility. So where I'm not a one-on-one, where I have a one-to-many option, like a podcast interview or a networking event where there's a large audience of the same people, getting in the right rooms is super duper important. And I wrote a blog about that. So if you're in the right room with the right message, it's money. If you're in the wrong room with the right message, it's not going to work. Or the wrong room with the wrong message, that's not going to work. So you got to find your right rooms. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm looking for my right rooms. I'm collaborating with other women who have a similar goal of helping other women in their business endeavors, and making it easier, not, giving them a bunch of homework to do to make it happen. So I want to make it easy for you.
Yeah,
I want to
I
help
love that. So you
you
mentioned
grow.
being in the right room with the right message and that making all the difference. So what are you hoping that your messaging content and visibility efforts are currently communicating about your business?
They're communicating about having the chipping away issues. Right now, I'm getting a lot of traction with that. I think that finding resonating LinkedIn groups is really making it work for me. So I've gone through LinkedIn, and over the years, I've been on LinkedIn since 2006. I mean, nobody really even knew what LinkedIn was. It was, not even a million people back in that day. Now we're in the billion range with LinkedIn. So LinkedIn for business professionals, for coaches, consultants, um, business services professionals, that's where we need to be. I need to find the right social platform to be on. That happens to be LinkedIn for me. That's where I have my biggest audience. I've been really intentional about who I connect with. So if I get 15 connection requests, I go through them individually and look at each one of those people to make sure that they're either a prospect or somebody I can collaborate with, or someone who can introduce me to someone that I want to know. Making sure that I'm in all of those right rooms, meaning the groups. Like there's a women's group called Connect. A lot of people are in that group. It started a very long time ago. Just lots of small business women in business groups. So finding those and getting in them and sharing content in them, that's how you find the rooms. So online, doing the same thing on Facebook, even there's not the same on Instagram, but so you can have this strategy. But I do recommend just mastering one platform that really works for you at first, and then blossoming out to doing other platforms because it's a lot of spinning plates. So yes, the right rooms is how you're going to get there.
I love it. All right. Well, in winding down, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice when you first started this journey, knowing what you know now, what would that piece of advice be?
Um, Man, it was really hard for me to let go of some of the pieces. And I had to trust people that I was working with, but my team's been with me for over 8 years, 9 years, something like that. And so they know me. And we've been through it, right? The ups and downs and all of those things. I think the hardest thing has been, letting go of some of those things. So what I did eventually, I had Asana for a project management system, and it just wasn't being used properly. There was, like I was trying to find that way. How do I control all these projects and all these spinning plates and things that are moving? And so I ended up doing these statements of work for each of my team members, as well as weekly reports that they have to give to me. If they're doing the job and the numbers are going this way, I'm good, right? It's when I don't know what they're doing and I can't wrap my head around what's happening is when I feel really vulnerable. So I make sure that going forward, I have a way to be able to give somebody something and get something back so that I can understand, that they're doing their job and that it's working. So I'm a big believer in metrics. And I know a lot of small businesses are like, what? I don't want to look at my bank account, let alone, looking at all the analytics you can find on social media channels. But if you focus on one channel and really hone your content and, watch how your numbers go, it's great guidance
Mhm.
for a lot of things. So,
I love that piece of advice. It's
yeah,
analytics.
yes, it is
All right. In
totally.
closing, tell us what's next for you, where people can connect with you and learn more about what you're doing out in the world.
What's next is I'm releasing a series of webinars, starting with a webinar called Burn Your Suits. And it's going to be an evergreen webinar where I have it like once a month. And it's going to introduce people to the mindset. It's going to introduce people to, what you need as the foundational pieces of your business in order to get high value out of those pieces. So, Burn Your Suits is about leaving corporate for entrepreneurship and hypothetically burning your suits because, you're not going back. You're not going back to the corporate dress code of wearing the suit. So um, I would like for them to look for that particular course, and they can go to my website innovatelaunch.com, and they can see where that will have ways to register. I also have an offer to join the community. There's no charge to join the VIP community. There's a lot of really great basic information that I share with you there. And then find me on YouTube. I would really like to have people dial in there. I think I'm putting out really good quality information, even if you're not a woman of a certain age, the stuff still applies to you. So on Innovate Launch on YouTube, and I would love to see you there.
Thank you so much for sharing. You've given our audience a wealth of insight and some really great ideas for business. And I really enjoyed having you on the podcast, Suzette.
I appreciate it so much. And if there's anything I can do to support you and your community, I'm always there for you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Take care.
All right.